Lou Hamilton of Audible Elegance of Cincinnati, Ohio. We are located in Old Montgomery and on Montgomery Road, a couple doors north of the original Montgomery Inn and across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. Tonight I'm going to revisit a subject that I've covered once before, and it's called the triangle of retail. And the triangle of retail has 3 points. One is service, the other is quality, and then there's price. What a lot of people don't realize is that, truthfully, you only get 2 of 3 when you make a purchase. Anybody who says that they're going to give you all 3 is either fibbing or going out of business. So they're not worried about the service aspect because they're not around to answer your call. Pretty simple. So a quality retailer is not going to be able to do this, because if he does this, what's going to happen is he's going to have to either reduce service or he's going to have to go to a lower quality product. Now, sometimes this combination is hidden in the choice of products that they sell. And the way that it is hidden is a selection of the product, and what they're looking for is margin. Their cost in the product is low. The stated retail price is very high, so they can show, a discount when they're actually dropping back to what would be the standard margins that a retailer would make. So instead of being a cost of X, it might be a third of X or 40% of X. But that's where they have the ability to appear that they're showing quality. They're giving you the service, but the price is actually being manipulated by what they're paying for the product itself. And we don't operate that way. I've had products offered to me from different manufacturers we don't carry, where they're telling me that what I can make on it is, look at this, well, that's true. But 2 things about that. Number one is it's really not representing the quality that it really is, because usually it's not a particularly great quality. The other thing is, I don't think that deciding what you're going to sell a customer should be dictated by how much money you wind up putting in your pocket. That has nothing to do really with quality. That's focusing on how much I'm taking home. And that's usually a very short run. This has now pretty much become dominated. This link is pretty well dominated by the mail order houses. So you'll see what you thought might be a great product offered at a really tremendous price. Now, there's another aspect of that game, which is not the fault of the dealers. There are websites out there that have these tremendous prices on XYZ widget. And the fact of the matter is, they're not an authorized dealer of the product. What they do is they take your money, and it may take them 2 or 3 months to find somebody willing to sell it to them cheap enough so they can fill your order. We've had a few customers get stuck in that goo and asking us for help, and there's really not much we can do. These companies are usually out of state, so your ability to even legally get satisfaction is extremely complicated, and they know it. Some of these companies may advertise on very prestigious magazines, and they show these incredible images and stuff, and they might be working out of somebody's basement. That's not uncommon. That was actually a kind of a game done by one dealer who's no longer around. He had a small little office space above another tenant, and but he had these ads that you would swear, that he was flying around in Learjets taking care of everybody. It wasn't true. Now, service has multiple aspects to it, and the first service most customers expect is at the sale. And they want to be presented. In other words, they want to be able to touch and feel the product. They also want to have their questions answered. Okay? And we've had situations where this step alone may take anywhere between 3 and 8 hours on a single visit. Okay? This is an investment by the dealership in the customer done on the front side. And the investment is made in the hopes or desire that you'll actually go ahead and purchase the quality that's being presented. This is not cheap. Can you imagine somebody at McDonald's spending 8 hours going over the menu on the board but not selling anything? They wouldn't be there for long. Their goal in selling cheap product, okay, is get you at the counter and away from the counter in about 30 seconds or less. They've even moved it now to the point where you don't even have people taking care of you. You've got to go over to a board and punch in your own order. And that is all trying to drive dealing with price pressures. But now you're doing the work. My favorite was people asking Walmart to pay them when they use self-checkout because they're doing the work that was normally provided by the retailer themselves. I do find that interesting, and so occasionally you'll see somebody who writes Walmart for a W-2. Where's my W-2? Sort of thing. Now, so that's part one of the sale and service. The next part is somewhat behind the scenes, which is what I would call prep. This is the ordering, receiving of goods, okay, and also potentially inspecting the goods when they've been arrived. In other words, if they feel cause that something might be imperfect, they're going to go into it, okay? There's nothing worse than getting any package, even mail order, only to open it up and find the contents destroyed. That's a very big point of dissatisfaction. Okay, so you have prep. Of course, you have sales. Okay, that's part of the service aspect. But after sales, you may get kicked back to questions about the product itself and how I'm using it in my application. Can I do this or can I do that? Any number of other elements that falls into what is traditionally called support. Now, support is not only answering the immediate questions. Sometimes it may involve the store doing setup in your home. We just had a case like that today where someone bought a Bluetooth turntable and Bluetooth speakers, and had we just given him the stuff over the counter, I'm sure that Monday or Tuesday morning I'd have a refund, because the fine gentleman was not technically savvy, okay? And those type of pieces of equipment are not plug and plays. They require some integration. They may require getting set up through the network, all sorts of things. So that is part of support. The other part of support is when something's not operating right. Now, we've had instances where the product was operating fine in a customer's home, and then an intervening event occurred. It could be a loss of power, it could be a lightning strike, any number of things. where the set is shut down and may have its memory popped, so to speak. So they're trying to figure out how to get it all working again. Again, that is part of the support process, all part of the service. Then, of course, everyone knows the other one, which is service, in terms of the product is no longer working, or it's worn out, or somebody ran their tricycle into it, any number of things, and they need it repaired. Now, what a lot of people don't understand about our part of the industry is that no manufacturer pays Audible Elegance to service their product. We don't get a dime. If we have to order parts, we oftentimes have to pay for the shipping costs to get those parts here. Now, whether those parts are free or not can be somewhat dependent upon the manufacturer. So in some cases, we have to prepay to get that part in and then send what we consider the defective part back for their evaluation as to whether it's really warranty or not. And that puts us in an awkward position, because now we got something repaired, but we got to wait for the referee to look at the action again and tell us whether it was inbounds or out of bounds in terms of warranty. And so we take a little heat from customers sometimes because we're strung out. We don't know what to do, and that does happen. Not often, but it can. So services is then supported by the price that is we charge with the quality that's given. If we start cutting and using price as a wedge, these type of steps will have to fall away. There's no way that you can provide this type of support and with a fixed quality without price becoming a factor and affecting what's going on here. Quality is based upon the product that is offered for sale. So, that's how it works. It's a fixed known entity, so to speak. So, this is the real triangle of any purchase. This is not only Audible Elegance. This could be furniture. This could be any number of things. And when we're asked, what do we do? Well, what do I do when I'm looking at perhaps bringing another product line in? The first thing I look for is to go out and sniff around and find out what type of support I get from the manufacturer so that I can fulfill that mission. If I find out that the manufacturer is notoriously bad, or I have to leave messages for a week at a time to take care of a problem, that's not exactly a situation I want to put my customers in. We just had a case where we were asked to install something we did not sell, a brand that we do not represent, and it turned out that the remote that came with it was defective. So I sent two guys, basically it worked out to be a 4-hour round trip to do an installation, but part of it could not be done because of a defective remote. Well, that can happen. That can happen with anything. We call it infant mortality. In this case, however, the customer called the manufacturer and said, "Hey, I got a bad remote, and I can't get this done." Well, they admitted that, yeah, we've been having problems with our remotes. So, if a manufacturer is having a problem, and we went through this with Rotel for a while. Michael Bartlett, he was driven nuts by early Chinese production. If you have a known problem, then that's where quality control of the distributor or the manufacturer steps in, and they should have been checking each box and all the remotes. So by not doing it, they saved themselves some money, but then they foist the problem on the back of the dealer who takes crap for selling something that's broken, and the customer is inconvenienced. In Rotel's case, in early production out of China, I'll give Michael Bartlett, they no longer own it, it was a different company. they wound up having to do 100% QC on every piece of Rotel that came in from China. They were having that many problems, and they wanted to nip it in the bud. And that in their case, they actually even found where the jobber who was building some of the stuff for them was substituting parts of lower quality than they had spec'd. So yeah, there can be some problems. It depends upon how well the manufacturer responds and deals with it. And that is part of one of the questions we ask before we're even willing to sell the product line is, how do they handle problems? We just had one that was absolutely spectacular. The company is based in Croatia, called Degritter. And we had a degritter out there for a few months, and for whatever reason, it failed. And we could not get it out of the mode of failure. Their response was, pack it up, we'll send you a return label to Croatia. We'll either fix it or we'll send you a new one. Today we just installed a new one. That is absolutely spectacular. That's just off the charts. You know, that's the type of company you keep. So these sort of things do happen. And how the manufacturer handles service affects every step that we have to do while we're trying to sell a level of quality. And no, we can't do it by price. This triangle was actually taught to me by Joe Otmar, who was with his father Furniture by Otmar just across the street. Joe's now on his own, and he handcrafts all sorts of amazing woodwork. And he basically said, I can give you certain quality and I can do the service. Don't even talk to me about price, because I've got to make a living so that I can continue to provide the quality and the service. And that's where it comes in. As I said, if someone's offering you all three, they're either a fibber or they're not going to be around to give you any service at all. And that's just the way it is. So we've had situations now where we do, the sales presentation, do all the work. They haul off and mail order it based upon price. They have a problem. The next thing you know, they're bringing it and sending it on our counter saying, I got a problem with this. We've reached the point now where we're saying, well, you've got to take it back to whoever sold it to you, because we don't have the resources to provide this service, because we got nothing out of the transaction. And the way I look at it is, why should we make up the differential in the service that you gave away at our expense? It makes no sense to me at all. And yeah, we've had a couple of people really give us some real crap about that. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just the way life is. If you're going to deal with somebody else, then that's fine. That's cool. But don't make a deal with somebody else and then expect me to uphold a part of the bargain that you were willing to give away to get that. It's as simple as that. So there we are. I don't mean to be dreadful about it, but you'll find that the really good quality dealers who are around a long time, Audible Elegance is entering now its 40th year in business, is we concentrate on this. It's not to say that we sell the most expensive stuff either, because we don't. Because to me, part of service is going out there and trying to find the product that will perform the best for the least amount of dollars. That's the winning product. So no, we don't acquire product lines like there's some sort of merit badge on a Boy Scout sachet. No. If the product sells for a lot, but it really doesn't perform very well, I shouldn't be selling it, because that is poor service. So there's a lot going on if you're going to run a business successfully. Audible Elegance has set the record in Cincinnati for the longest lived audio business. And we're still at it. And we'll continue to be at it. I've seen 25, 26 businesses come and go in Cincinnati in my span. There'll be more.